The gala dinner was supposed to be a night of celebration, a night where I could proudly introduce my husband, Daniel, to my colleagues, especially to my boss, Mr. Aldridge, a man known for his ruthless ambition and sharp tongue. I had warned Daniel beforehand, Aldridge wasn't the type to sugarcoat anything, and he often treated anyone outside his corporate circle as unworthy. Still, Daniel had smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "Don't worry, Emily. I can handle myself." The ballroom glistened with chandeliers, laughter, and the sound of clinking glasses. Daniel looked dashing in his black suit, though I could tell he felt slightly out of place among the wealthy investors, CEOs, and power players who lived in a world far removed from ours. My boss wasted no time making that obvious. When I introduced Daniel, Aldridge's eyes swept over him like a man inspecting a second-hand car he didn't plan to buy. "So this is your husband," he said with a chuckle that carried just enough disdain to sting. "What do you do, Daniel? Run marathons? Fix cars? Or do you just stay home and let Emily bring in the money?" A ripple of laughter spread through the group around him. My cheeks burned with embarrassment. Daniel, however, remained calm, his polite smile unfaltering. "I run my own business," he replied. "Oh?" Aldridge raised his eyebrows mockingly. "A business? Let me guess, something small? A coffee shop? An online trinket store? You'll have to forgive me, but I tend to deal with bigger players." He gestured grandly to the room full of millionaires. The laughter grew louder. I felt my stomach twist. Daniel simply nodded and sipped his drink, unbothered. I wanted to say something, to defend him, but he squeezed my hand gently under the table, a silent signal, "Don't. Let me handle this." As the evening went on, Aldridge made subtle digs whenever Daniel spoke. If Daniel mentioned travel, Aldridge would boast about his private jet. If Daniel commented on wine, Aldridge would smirk and say, "I'm sure this is finer than anything you've had before." The humiliation was relentless. Then came the moment that changed everything. The host invited guests to give short toasts about success, perseverance, and vision. Predictably, Aldridge stood first, delivering a pompous speech about power, dominance, and being the alpha in every room. His words dripped arrogance, and the crowd applauded more out of obligation than admiration. When he sat down, to my shock, Daniel stood up. His calm demeanor hadn't changed. He walked to the stage with quiet confidence, took the microphone, and glanced around the room. "My name is Daniel," he began simply, "and I've spent most of tonight being reminded that I don't belong here. I've been laughed at, dismissed, and treated like I'm less. But let me tell you something, I know exactly what success feels like, because I built it with my own hands." The room went silent. Even Aldridge leaned forward, suddenly curious. "I started with nothing," Daniel continued. "No wealthy parents. No safety net. No shortcuts. Just an idea, hard work, and more failures than I can count. I've worked 20-hour days. I've eaten instant noodles for weeks just to keep my dream alive. I've been mocked before, but the difference is, I don't need anyone's approval to know my worth." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Daniel's voice grew stronger. "Tonight, I've been laughed at for supposedly running a small business. So let me set the record straight. That business now employs over 200 people. We just secured a contract to expand internationally. And last quarter, we outperformed several companies represented in this very room." The silence was deafening. I felt my heart swell with pride. Daniel looked directly at Aldridge then. "Success isn't about belittling others to feel superior. It's not about the size of your bank account or how loudly you boast at a dinner table. Success is about resilience. It's about respect, respect for yourself and respect for others. And if you need to humiliate someone's spouse just to make yourself feel powerful, then maybe you're not as successful as you think." A collective gasp rippled across the room. Aldridge's smirk vanished. Daniel handed the microphone back to the host, walked back to me, and sat down as the room erupted into applause, genuine, thunderous applause. People who had laughed earlier now looked at him with admiration. Strangers leaned over to shake his hand. Even Aldridge, red-faced and stiff, was forced to nod in acknowledgement. I looked at my husband, speechless. He took my hand, smiled that calm, steady smile, and whispered, "Told you I could handle myself." That night, when we left the gala, I realized something powerful. My boss might have the money, the status, and the arrogance, but my husband had something greater: dignity, integrity, and a strength that couldn't be shaken by anyone, no matter how high their pedestal. And in the end, his comeback didn't just stun the room, it stunned me, too, reminding me why I fell in love with him in the first place.